Hi everyone, I'm Steve Hayes from Wells Fargo, and I'm here with my colleague Derek Freed, who's one of our structured trade finance experts. Good morning, Derek.
How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Derek, quick one to start you off. A lot of people will have heard of the term EXIM or EXIM Bank, but perhaps probably don't know too much about it. Can you just give us a bit of an overview of this pretty interesting branch of the federal government, please?
Sure. The Export and Import Bank of the United States is the official export credit agency of our country, commonly called EXIM. And really, its purpose is to support U.S. exports and the associated U.S. jobs.
Okay, so I get that. That makes sense. I mean, 95% of the world's consumers, live outside of the US. So it makes sense that US companies would want to grow their markets and increase their customer base by exporting to other countries rather than just, selling into the US. But why does the US government get involved there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess what I would say is imagine two different companies that sell agricultural equipment. The one that maybe sells into companies in Iowa farmers. Their customers have no problem getting loans on attractive terms to buy that equipment. But a different company in the US selling the same equipment, say to Brazilian farmers, it's much harder for them to arrange financing for their buyers in Brazil. Brazilians don't have as developed a financing market as we do here, so it's hard for them to get those kinds of loans. Um, Lenders typically aren't excited about making a cross-border loan because there's a lot of additional risk associated with that. So that market failure is essentially what Exim is here to correct.
Can you give me an example? This sounds a little on the complicated side. Can you just give me an example of how a transaction might actually work?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have one customer we worked with for many years, and they sell aircraft into Latin America. The buyers of those aircraft easily have ways to monetize those assets after they purchase them, but they don't have the cash up front to pay for it. So what happens is our customer sells the aircraft against a note on, say, terms of 5 years to the Brazilians. They get that loan insured by XM, and then they sell us that note. We turn around and bill their customer in Brazil, say semi-annually over 5 years, and the customer pays us back. So our exporter ends up with a sale they otherwise wouldn't have had. The buyer in Brazil ends up with a plane that they need that they can use for their own business. And we end up with a loan that repays us over 5 years that's guaranteed or insured by EXIM Bank.
So, Derek, this sounds like one of those rare situations where it's a mutually beneficial structure for all parties concerned. That being the case, why isn't this more well known and why don't more US companies avail themselves of some of these solutions that Exim Bank provides?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a fair question. And of course, as I'm sitting here talking about it, I make it sound so easy. But these are complicated loans. It requires buy-in by the foreign purchasers of these products. It requires buy-in by the exporters, and it requires a lender that has a certain level of expertise and sophistication to make it happen. Manufacturers in the Midwest in particular are somewhat conservative financially, and maybe they don't want to do this kind of a loan without a good reason to do so. In our experience, a lot of the times we get asked about it when a customer of ours loses out on a big sale to a competitor who's offering these kinds of financing.
You used a couple of examples and you used an agricultural examples. What other industries have you seen taking advantage of this?
Yeah, we sometimes talk about LRAs, large rotating apparatus. Those are the kinds of products that are generally fitting for this program. So you talk about engines, generators, prop planes that I mentioned earlier, but also lots of other things. We've seen deals with fire trucks, we've seen medical equipment, we've seen dredges. Really, any big ticket export's a good fit for the program.
Okay. So to finish up, what message would you give the owner or the leader of a business looking to grow its exports? What kind of things should they be thinking about?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of our customers and prospective customers, export markets are really a great opportunity for growth. But it does come with additional risk and complication. And so they need to spend some time understanding what those risks and complications are. And they also need to understand the options that are out there to help them mitigate those risks and remove those obstacles. And EXIM Bank is a really good partner for all those problems and issues. And certainly finding a lender that has expertise to work with EXIM Bank on those structures is really a good way to figure all that out.
Excellent. Well, Derek, thank you so much for your time today in making what is a, a little known part of the US government and the programs that it offers much more easy to understand. And next time that I'm looking to export one of my airplanes to the developing world, I will definitely give you a call.
Sounds good. Thanks, Steve.